It started with a single post that sent shockwaves through social media, the kind of post that makes fans stop scrolling and start screenshotting. Late one evening, whispers began circulating that Tamar had finally had enough. Not just of the rumors, not just of the side comments, but of the narrative that, according to her supporters, had been quietly building around her name. Within hours, blogs were buzzing, comment sections were on fire, and fans were asking the same question. Over and over again, what really happened between Tamar and Mendeecees? Sources online claim that Tamar, known for never holding back when she feels cornered, was pushed to her limit after what many are calling shocking claims began making rounds. The internet did what it does best: twisted words added fuel and turned whispers into headlines. And then, according to reports, Tamar finally spoke up. Not in a calm, rehearsed statement, but in a fiery response that left fans stunned. Those close to the situation say her tone was sharp, emotional, and deeply personal, as if years of frustration came pouring out all at once. What caught everyone off guard wasn't just the response, it was the words allegedly used. Insiders claim Tamar didn't hold back, calling Mendeecees a playboy and accusing him of playing games while pretending to be something he's not. Social media exploded almost instantly. Some fans rallied behind her, saying she was finally standing her ground. Others questioned whether this was another chapter in a long-running feud that refuses to die down. Screenshots began circulating. Reaction videos popped up within minutes. Comment sections turned into battlegrounds, with people choosing sides and dissecting every sentence, every emoji, every pause. Emotions ran high. One fan wrote, "You can tell this isn't just drama, this is personal." Another added, "If this is true, then everything we thought we knew might be wrong." And just like that, what started as a rumor turned into a full-blown online storm. With neither side officially confirming details, the tension only grew stronger. Fans were left wondering, was this a long-awaited clapback or the beginning of an even bigger fallout? One thing was clear: the silence was broken and the drama was far from over. The situation didn't explode all at once. It simmered quietly at first, the way online stories often do, with vague posts, half sentences, and fans reading between the lines. People started noticing small changes in tone, subtle unfollows, cryptic captions that felt heavier than usual. Nothing was confirmed, but the energy shifted. Longtime followers could tell something was off. When Tamar's name began trending alongside Mendeecees, it wasn't because of a new project or a friendly reunion. It was because fans believed there was tension boiling under the surface, and they were desperate to know why. According to online chatter, the issue didn't start with one comment. It started with whispers. People claimed that conversations were happening behind the scenes, conversations that didn't stay private for long. Screenshots began to float around, none of them fully verified, but enough to spark speculation. Blogs picked them up, then reaction pages, then commentary channels. Suddenly, everyone had an opinion. Some said Tamar had been disrespected. Others claimed Mendeecees was being misunderstood. The story grew bigger than the people involved, taking on a life of its own. What really fueled the fire was the way Tamar allegedly responded. Those close to her say she didn't go looking for drama. But once her name was dragged into conversations she felt were unfair, she refused to stay silent. Sources claimed she felt painted into a corner, made to look like someone she wasn't. And when that happens, especially in the public eye, silence can feel like guilt. Fans noticed a shift in her energy, a sharper edge in her words. Even when she wasn't directly addressing anyone, then came the moment that set everything off. According to multiple fan accounts, Tamar finally snapped back. Not with a press release, not with a carefully written statement, but with raw emotion. People say she called out behavior she had apparently been biting her tongue about for a long time. The word that shocked everyone was the one that spread fastest across timelines: Playboy. Whether it was said exactly that way or paraphrased, later, no one can say for sure, but the meaning landed the same. Fans took it as a clear message that she was done protecting anyone's image but her own. The reaction was instant. Some fans praised her for standing up for herself, saying it was about time someone said what others were thinking. Others questioned whether airing things out publicly would only make things worse. Still, the comment sections filled with debates, theories, and emotional reactions. Emotions ran high became the understatement of the week. People weren't just watching a story unfold, they were emotionally invested in it. What made the situation even more intense was the way those around them reportedly reacted. Friends of both sides were said to be caught in the middle, unsure of who to support or what to say publicly. Some stayed silent, which only added more fuel to the speculation. Others dropped vague messages about loyalty, truth, and staying strong, which fans immediately tried to decode. Every post, every like, every deleted story became part of the narrative. Behind the scenes, according to online gossip, the tension wasn't just about words. It was about trust. People close to the situation hinted that old wounds had never fully healed and that this latest wave of drama simply reopened them. Tamar, known for wearing her heart on her sleeve, was allegedly hurt by what she felt were unfair assumptions and quiet judgments. Mendeecees, on the other hand, was being portrayed by some fans as someone whose past reputation made him an easy target for blame. Whether deserved or not, as the story grew, so did the emotional weight attached to it. Fans began taking sides, drawing lines, and defending their favorites with passion. Some said Tamar was finally reclaiming her voice after staying quiet for too long. Others argued that public accusations only create more confusion. The comment sections turned into digital courtrooms, with everyone acting as judge and jury, dissecting every rumor as if it were evidence. What stood out most, though, was how personal everything felt. This wasn't just celebrity gossip anymore. It felt like two people with history, pride, and unresolved tension colliding in front of the world. People who had followed their journeys for years felt almost protective, as if they were watching friends fall out rather than public figures clash. That emotional investment made every new detail feel heavier, every rumor more intense. And through it all, the silence from both sides only made things louder. No official clarification, no calm explanation, just speculation echoing across the corn. Internet fans began asking questions that had no clear answers. Was this a misunderstanding blown out of proportion? Was there truth behind the claims? Or was this simply another example of how quickly narratives can spiral out of control once they hit social media? By the time the story reached its peak that day, it had become clear that this was no longer just about one comment or one reaction. It had turned into a larger conversation about respect, reputation, and the pressure of living in the public eye. People weren't just watching anymore, they were waiting to see who would speak next, who would clarify, and whether this situation would calm down or explode even further. The tension hung in the air, unresolved, as fans refreshed their feeds. Knowing this story was far from finished, the tension didn't slow down after that moment. Instead, it seemed to grow heavier. With every passing hour, fans started noticing how the conversation shifted from simple curiosity to deep emotional investment. People weren't just reacting anymore, they were choosing sides. Timelines filled with long threads breaking down every possible angle, every old interview clip, every subtle expression that could hint at what was really going on. It felt like the entire situation had taken on a life of its own, fueled by speculation and emotion rather than confirmed facts. According to many viewers, what made this situation feel different was how personal it appeared. This wasn't a random rumor about strangers. These were two people with history, with public journeys that fans had followed for years. When Tamar's name came up in connection with the claims, people immediately began recalling past moments where she had spoken about trust, loyalty, and being misunderstood. Those old words suddenly felt relevant again, as if they were pieces of a puzzle finally falling into place. Some fans believe Tamar's reaction, as reported online, came from a place of exhaustion rather than anger. They say she had reached a point where staying quiet felt more damaging than speaking up. The idea that her name was being attached to something she didn't agree with reportedly struck a nerve. Supporters pointed out that when someone feels backed into a corner, their response can come out sharper than intended. In their eyes, her alleged words weren't meant to start a war, but to draw a line. Others, however, saw the situation differently. They argued that calling someone a playboy, even indirectly, only adds fuel to the fire. In their view, public conflicts rarely end well, especially when fans and media are watching closely. They questioned whether emotions had taken over reason, and whether this moment would later be regretted once things calmed down. Still, even those critics admitted that the pressure of constant scrutiny can push anyone to their limit. As the debate grew, people close to both sides were said to feel the strain. Friends reportedly avoided commenting, knowing that even a single word could be twisted into a headline. Some posted vague messages about protecting peace. Others went completely silent. Fans analyzed every move, every like, every story post, trying to read between the lines. The absence of clear statements only made the speculation louder. What added another layer to the drama was the way fans began connecting thoughts from the past. Old interviews resurfaced where Tamar had spoken about feeling disrespected or misunderstood in different situations. Clips were shared with captions suggesting that history was repeating itself. Whether those interpretations were fair or not didn't seem to matter anymore. The narrative had already taken shape in the public's mind. At the same time, discussions about Mendeecees took on a life of their own. Some fans felt his silence was being misread, arguing that not every situation deserves a public response. Others believed that staying quiet allowed assumptions to grow unchecked. Debates broke out over whether silence was a sign of maturity or avoidance. Every opinion found an audience, and the comment sections grew more heated by the hour. What made the situation even more intense was how emotionally invested fans became. People who had never met either person were passionately defending their perspectives, as if the outcome personally affected them. Phrases like "emotions ran high" barely scratched the surface. This wasn't just gossip anymore. It was a full-blown emotional discussion playing out in real time across social media. Some viewers pointed out how quickly stories can spiral once they hit the internet. A single comment can turn into a headline into a narrative, and a narrative into something that feels undeniable, even when facts are still unclear. In this case, that cycle seemed to be repeating itself. Each new reaction added another layer, making it harder to separate truth from interpretation. Meanwhile, others tried to take a more balanced view. They reminded people that online drama often lacks context, that real conversations are more complex than what appears on screen. They urged patience, suggesting that jumping to conclusions only deepens misunderstandings. But those voices were often drowned out by louder, more emotional reactions. As hours turned into days, the situation showed no signs of cooling down. Speculation continued, theories multiplied, and the tension remained unresolved. Fans kept refreshing their feeds, waiting for something concrete, something that would finally clarify what was really going on. Until then, all they had were fragments, reactions, and emotions stitched together into a story that felt unfinished. And that unfinished feeling was what kept everyone hooked. The sense that something more was coming, that the silence would eventually break, that another revelation might shift the entire narrative again. Whether it would bring clarity or more confusion, no one could say. But one thing was certain, the drama had reached a point where turning back seemed impossible. And whatever happened next would leave a lasting impression on everyone watching from the outside. As the conversation continued to spread, the tone around it began to shift in a noticeable way. What started as curiosity slowly turned into something heavier, almost uncomfortable. People weren't just reacting anymore, they were emotionally involved. Fans began projecting their own experiences onto the situation, seeing pieces of their own stories reflected in what they believed was happening. For some, it felt like watching a familiar pattern play out again, where misunderstandings grow louder than the truth, according to online chatter. Tamar's name kept getting pulled into discussions she never asked to be part of. Every time someone mentioned her, the narrative seemed to grow more twisted. Supporters claimed she was being misrepresented, while critics insisted she was fueling the situation by responding at all. That constant push and pull created an atmosphere where nothing felt neutral anymore. Everything was either a sign of guilt or proof of strength. Depending on who you asked, many fans pointed out how emotionally draining it must be to live under that kind of pressure. Imagine waking up and seeing thousands of strangers debating your character, your intentions, your private life. Some believed that this emotional weight explained why the response, as reported, sounded so sharp. When someone feels misunderstood for too long, their words can come out harsher than they mean. To them, it wasn't about attacking anyone. It was about reclaiming control of their own narrative. Others, however, focused on the impact of the words themselves. Even if emotions were high, they argued public statements carry consequences. Labeling someone, even indirectly, can shape how millions of people view them. This side of the audience felt that things had gone too far, too fast, and that once certain lines are crossed, it becomes difficult to undo the damage. Still, even they admitted that the pressure of public life can push anyone to their limits. As discussions grew louder, more voices entered the conversation. Bloggers, commentators, and reaction channels began offering their own interpretations. Some framed the situation as a clash of egos, others as a misunderstanding blown out of proportion by social media. A few even suggested that the entire situation highlighted how quickly narratives can spiral when fans start filling in gaps with assumptions. With every new take, the story evolved further from its original form. What made things even more complicated was the emotional history people believed existed beneath the surface. Fans speculated that unresolved issues from the past were resurfacing, turning small disagreements into major conflicts. Whether that was true or not, the idea resonated with many. It gave context to the intensity of the reactions and made the situation feel deeper than a simple exchange of words. Meanwhile, silence from certain sides only added to the tension. When no clear statement came forward, people began creating their own explanations. Some saw silence as guilt, others as maturity. Some thought it was strategic, a way to avoid escalating the drama further. But in a world where everyone expects instant responses, silence often speaks louder than words. Even if it isn't meant to, fans also started questioning the role of social media itself. Many pointed out how quickly private moments can become public spectacles. One comment, one screenshot, one rumor is all it takes to set off a chain reaction. In this case, the situation seemed to prove just how powerful online narratives can be, especially when fueled by emotion and speculation rather than confirmed facts. As days passed, the emotional tone of the discussion shifted again. Anger slowly gave way to concern. Some fans expressed worry about how all of this might affect the people involved on a personal level. Others wondered whether the pressure of public judgment could lead to long-term consequences. There was a growing sense that what started as gossip had turned into something much heavier. Through it all, one thing remained clear. People were deeply invested. Not because they knew the full truth, but because the story tapped into universal themes of trust, respect, and being misunderstood. Viewers saw reflections of their own conflicts, their own struggles to be heard in the way this situation unfolded. That connection made it hard to look away. By this point, the narrative had become layered and complex. There were no clear heroes or villains, only perspectives shaped by emotion, memory, and interpretation. Every new detail seemed to raise more questions than answers. Fans were left wondering whether clarity would ever come, or if the story would simply fade into another unresolved chapter of online drama. What lingered most was the feeling that this wasn't over. Not because more accusations were coming, but because unresolved tension has a way of resurfacing when least expected. The silence, the speculation, the emotional reactions all pointed to a situation still unfolding beneath the surface. And as the audience watched closely, one thing became certain. Whatever happened next would not only shape the narrative, but also redefine how this entire moment would be remembered. As time went on, the energy around this situation began to shift in a way that felt heavier than before. What started as online chatter slowly turned into something much more emotional, almost uncomfortable to watch. People weren't just reacting anymore, they were investing themselves into the story, choosing sides and reading between every single line. It was no longer about what was said, but about what people believed was meant. Many fans began to say that Tamar's reaction felt less like an attack and more like a breaking point. Some felt she had reached a moment where holding everything inside simply wasn't possible anymore. They pointed out how often public figures are expected to stay quiet, stay composed, and accept whatever narrative is placed on them. According to this view, what people were seeing wasn't anger, but exhaustion. The kind that builds up over time and eventually finds a way out at the same time. Others believed that the situation had grown far beyond what it needed to be. They argued that emotions, once brought into the public eye, rarely lead to clarity. Instead, they create sides, arguments, and misunderstandings that take on a life of their own. Fans worried that no matter what the truth was, the damage was already done simply because of how widely the story had spread. What made everything even more intense was how silence played its role. In moments like these, when one side speaks and the other does not, people start creating their own explanations. Some saw the silence as maturity, others saw it as avoidance. Every hour without a response seemed to make the situation more complicated. The longer it went on, the more people speculated, and the more theories began circulating. Online discussions started to shift from shock to analysis. People went back to old interviews, old clips, old comments, trying to connect dots that may or may not have been related. Moments that once seemed harmless were now being viewed through a completely different lens. The past was being rewritten in real time, shaped by whatever emotions were strongest in the moment. There were also fans who tried to slow things down. They reminded others that no one truly knows what happens behind closed doors. They pointed out that social media only shows fragments, never the full story. These voices urged patience, asking people to stop turning assumptions into conclusions. But in a space driven by reaction and speed, calm voices often struggled to be heard. As days passed, the conversation became less about the original claim and more about what it represented. People began talking about respect, boundaries, and how quickly public perception can shift. Many noted how fame magnifies everything. A private disagreement becomes a public debate. A moment of emotion becomes a headline. And once that happens, it's almost impossible to take control of the narrative again. Some fans expressed concern for both sides, saying that regardless of who was right or wrong, the emotional toll must be heavy. Being discussed, judged, and analyzed by millions of strangers is not something most people are prepared for. The pressure alone can push anyone to react in ways they normally wouldn't. This perspective brought a more human tone to the discussion, reminding people that behind the headlines were real individuals with real feelings. What also became clear was how divided the audience had become. There was no longer a middle ground. People were either fully supportive or deeply critical. Every new comment reinforced those positions. It felt less like a conversation and more like two opposing sides speaking past each other, each convinced they understood the truth better than the other. As the noise continued, some fans began to step back and question why the story had affected them so strongly. Many realized it touched on deeper themes they related to personally: being misunderstood, having words twisted, or feeling forced to defend yourself publicly. In that way, the situation stopped being just about two public figures and started reflecting experiences many people had lived through themselves. Slowly, intensity began to settle into something quieter but heavier. Not resolved, not forgotten, just hanging in the air. The kind of tension that doesn't explode again immediately, but lingers. People waited to see if there would be a clarification, an explanation, or even an apology, but none came. And sometimes the absence of closure is what stays with people. The longest dot in the end, what remained was a sense of uncertainty. Not just about what really happened, but about how easily stories can spiral once emotion and speculation take over. The situation became a reminder of how powerful words can be, how quickly narratives form, and how difficult it is to pull them back once they're out in the open. For many viewers, the story didn't end with answers, but with questions. Questions about truth, about intention, and about how much of what we see online is ever complete. And as the conversation slowly faded from the spotlight, one thing stayed clear in people's minds. This wasn't just drama for entertainment. It was a moment that showed how fragile reputation can be, how quickly emotions can overflow, and how the line between private and public life continues to blur. And even as attention eventually moved on, the feeling remained that this situation had left a mark. Not because of what was said, but because of what it revealed about pressure, perception, and the cost of being watched by the world. If you've been following this story from the beginning, now is the moment where your voice matters. Situations like this never come with clear answers, and that's why your perspective is important. Do you think this was a moment of emotional honesty, or do you believe things were taken too far? Was this someone finally speaking up, or was it a reaction fueled by pressure and frustration? Everyone sees it differently, and that's what makes this conversation so intense. Drop your thoughts in the comments and let us know where you stand. Do you feel like Tamar had every right to speak her truth? Or do you think silence would have been the better choice? And what about Mendeecees? Do you believe his silence says more than words ever could? Or is it simply a way to avoid adding fuel to the fire? Your opinion helps shape the conversation, and we want to hear it. If you've been watching closely, you already know stories like this rarely end where they begin. Sometimes the real truth comes out weeks later. Sometimes it never comes out at all. But one thing is certain: when emotions run high and public attention is involved, nothing stays simple for long. So stay alert, because this situation could take another turn when you least expect it. Make sure you like this video if you found the breakdown insightful. And subscribe if you want to stay updated on stories like this as they unfold. We don't just report what's trending. We dive into the emotions, the reactions, and the deeper meaning behind the headlines. And most importantly, turn on notifications so you don't miss the next update. Because if history tells us anything, it's that when things go quiet, it usually means something bigger is coming.